Hi everyone, welcome to the second video in this tutorial series on learning the basics of animation in Blender. The first video goes over scene setup, Blender functionality, and hotkeys. We got introduced to the 12 principles of animation, and we used 5 principles to animate our bouncing ball. In today's video, we'll build on what we learned previously by adding 2 more principles of animation to our toolkit. They are anticipation and posing. I'll be using this Blender ball rig I made for this tutorial series. It's free to download. You'll find the link in the description. If you find value from my tutorials, like the video. Comment so I know what's working and not working. I want to share one comment I got last week that makes me very happy for this individual and is encouraging that my videos are helping. Here we are inside Blender. What we got going on is we have our ball rig, we have this crate, and we have a plane that both the ball and the crate are sitting on. I got the crate from an add-on called Blender Kit, so you can download that, and there's free and paid models, so it's easy to bring in things and speed up your workflow that way. If you have not seen the first video about setting up your workspace, go check that out. First thing we're going to do is bring in a camera. Shift A, let's bring in a camera. Here in my right panel, I'm going to hit 0 on my numpad, and it's going to take us into that camera, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to hit N, come over to our view, and hit this camera to view. What that does is it allows us to frame freely within this camera. So all I'm going to do is find something that allows me to see and give enough space within the frame for our action to take place. Here's the action that we're going to animate. We're going to have our green ball jump onto the box and jump off the box. Nice and simple. But in so doing, we're going to introduce 2 more principles, and that's anticipation and posing. So anticipation, what it does is it allows the audience to visually see what's going to happen before it happens. So in animation, and life in general, that's where this principle comes from. But in animation, we use it to allow the audience to see what's about to happen more clearly. So if there's a big action and I'm going to run in that direction, screen left, I'm first going to have a little buildup of energy in the opposite direction so that I can store energy. And in doing that, visually, the audience sees that I'm building up some kind of tension, and then I'm going to release it in that direction. So an anticipation allows the audience to see what action is about to come. Typically, the anticipation is a smaller pose, but in the opposite direction to where you're heading. So that's the anticipation we're going to do here. And posing really is our storytelling ideas. We use poses to convey action and to also help with our performance. Posing is a great way to see if your idea is working. You can put a couple poses together, skip to them, and see if your main ideas are communicating. To me, the 2 most important principles any animator needs to conquer are posing and timing. Like I said, posing are your storytelling ideas. So the better you are at posing, the more clear the audience can read your idea. Timing is how quick or slow something happens. So you can have good posing, good ideas, visually presented, timed in such a way that's also entertaining. So those 2 principles to me are the most important. So let's go ahead and start our bouncing ball on the box and off the box. And we're going to try to put a little personality into our ball. The first thing we're going to do is block the scene. We're going to use a combination of pose to pose and layered to do that. Pose to pose to get our main beats of where the ball needs to be and at what time, and layered later on to put in that squash and stretch information and just get more peel out of our bouncing ball. So let's start there with that principle. Straight ahead, pose to pose, and layered. It's all under one idea. All right, so I'm going to select my character, Control Tab, go into pose mode, and let's get that character facing the box. And before I get going, sometimes it's nice to even block your scene out visually just by puppeteering your action across the screen. So I can take that Move All Control, this one right here, and I can puppeteer my ball to get an idea of the action I want to animate. So I'm going to start my ball somewhere around here. I'm going to have an anticipation. So it's going to roll back, roll forward, a little jump maybe, a bigger jump onto the ball, lands, rolls forward, medium jump off, rolls forward, and is going to finish the action somewhere around here. So you can see just by even moving our ball across the screen space, we get an idea of the action. We can see how it works within the frame as well. Here we go. I'm at frame 1. I'll start my animation somewhere around frame 7 or 9. And the reason you want to give yourself a bit of buffer at the beginning is when the shot first cuts in on screen, it always takes your eyes a split second to just get oriented with all this new information. So while in that time where the audience is getting acquainted with that new framing, you're adding information in terms of movement, you're just muddying up what the viewer can take in. I'm going to give a little bit of time at the beginning. I'll just say 7 frames, and then I'll start my movement. I'm going to start a little closer. Somewhere right here, I'm going to hit I and insert a key. When I inserted a key, I set a key on my location and rotation. I show how to do that in the previous video. So I set my first keyframe, and now I'm thinking about the timing I want for my posing. Typically, I'll animate my key poses on odd frames, but keep my spacing even. So you can see my keyframe here is on frame 7, and I'm thinking, do I want my next key pose to be on frame 11 or frame 13? Either 4 frames or 6 frames apart. 4 frames is pretty snappy and more cartoony, so I might just go for the 6 right now. And this is all I'm going to do. Just roll my ball back a little bit. That's my anticipation. Perfect. Insert a key. And in the previous tutorial, I also talk about you can use auto key. And for the most part, yes, I would recommend it. I, in this last few years, have just gotten used to not doing it. So know that that's an option for you there. And so that's it. That's my first pose. You can see that's how simple it is. My anticipation just goes back. I'm not going to do the rolling yet. First, I'm going to do a first pass of just blocking in position throughout space, pardon me. And then if that's working and I feel it's entertaining as well, I'll then go back and add the detail of the roll, then the squash and stretch, and so on. We have our starting pose, our anticipation pose, which the anticipation just builds up energy in the opposite direction to where I'm about to go. And we're also going to do a hold. So here I'm going to go 6 frames or 8 frames, it depends. Let's do 8 frames for now. I'm going to insert a key, and you can see that we get this bar between the keys. That just means that this key and this key are the same. And that's a hold. And a hold is important because we do a little action, our big action, and then we have a hold, which is this right here. The hold allows time for the audience to just register what just did. So that's why a hold is important. And when we go and add a little breakdown and then a settle within this area here, we can make that hold a moving hold. So it's not just stiff. We can have a little bit of movement while retaining that overall idea and timing. But yes, building a hold is important. So we have our first pose, small anticipation pose, hold. Now let's go ahead and start our big anticipation down before the jump as well. So we're at frame 21, and I might go to frame let's go to 35 for now. And I'm going to pull him forward. Actually, let's go just 12 frames, 33. Pull him forward, somewhere around here, not too close. Insert a key. It's nice and simple. Small anticipation back, hold. He's going to roll forward. Squash and stretch. I'm not going to add that yet. And then he's going to jump up. Frame 33. Land maybe 12 frames later, maybe more, we'll see, on the box. So next main idea is our character is going to be on the box. And when we're posing, a little bit of crashing into the geometry that you're going into is good. Too much crashing is evident. No crashing might not look correctly in terms of contact. And I'm going to have that ball land somewhere over here just to allow myself a bit of rolling space here for the next jump. Okay, I'm going to select these 2 keys and go V and make those vector. Awesome. Let's do our little breakdown pose just so we can see the action as well. And I'm going to pull that ball up. Something fun. I'm not going to worry too much about the arc, the path the ball takes yet. I can clean that up later on. And then also play with the spacing, how long that ball stays up in the air. But I'm just building my blocking right now. Perfect. The ball's going to land somewhere around 45, maybe roll 12 more frames. And within that time, I might even have a small secondary bounce. I might not, I don't know. And for me, this character doesn't stop at the top. He just continues rolling and is going to jump off. I'm going to make that vector linear as well. And 57, maybe our ball lands on the ground at 69. I'm going to Alt-G, which brings our character back to the world origin. Just a nice, easy way to reset the values, and then I can get that contact just simpler. Somewhere around here I think is nice. Again, I'm going to make sure I'm crashing a little, but not overly crashing. Okay. And then a nice simple little roll to finish our animation. Something like this. Insert a key. I'm going to make this one here, this key vector, and this one for now auto clamped. So let's just go ahead and play what we have. Very, very rough blocking. So maybe we spent a good 4 minutes there. And already we can see that, well, there's a story happening. The ball is getting to the other side and the box is in the way and the ball needs to jump over the box. And so I can look at this now and know that it's working. Overall, the timing is working. And so when I look at a shot like this, I also think of the entertainment value. And so part of the entertainment value that's going to come out of this is the squash and stretch. And I know that's coming later on, when we're going to layer that information on. But really what I can do is just make some of the jumps a little higher and then add the secondary jumps. And really that's our performance of the ball. But you can see that little anticipation does such a powerful little job for building the rest of the scene. That little anticipation, building of that energy, sets up the rest of the animation, the movement going forward. Okay, let's clean up the blocking and then we'll add the rolling, and that's when we're really going to notice this ball feel correctly. Right now it feels a little funky. So the workflow so far that we've done really is a hybrid. We started with straight ahead as we started from the beginning, and we're just posing, laying ideas as we're moving along through our timeline to the end. Now what we're going to do is more of a layered approach where we're not leaving this one control until we're happy with the movement. And when we're happy with the movement, then we'll go on to a different control and add more entertainment value. So still with this move all control, I'm now looking really at the posing. Can I push the posing, where that posing is in relation to the other poses, and can I push my timing? And now I'll even start to add a few breakdowns. So here's my timing for this part. And I think overall it's good. I might even push this pose back a little bit more. Not much, but just a little bit more. I can take this, Control C and Control V, just to make sure that hold is the same. The ball is going to go forward and is jumping up. Okay, this part's all working for me. I think our jump could be higher. Awesome. I'm going to start going in the graph editor now. So we're using local orientation. And so I can see that it's the y-axis. I can come on over here to my graph editor, select that, Shift H, A to select all, period numpad. And I can see that representation of the action with the Y curve, the up and down. Really valuable. Okay, so I can select this one key at the top, hit S, and it's going to scale it. And what that does is the handles on those sides, on both sides of the key, go outwards. And so the spacing, the amount of time I stay in the air is longer. And what that does is, well, you're building more of an exaggerated timing. You're keeping the ball up longer. It's coming from that bottom area quicker, and it's going to come into the bottom landing area faster as well. And we're staying up in the apex longer. I think based off this big jump here, I will have a small little jump, a little recovery jump here. And then that roll continues on. Great. I'll get back to that little bit in just a second, but I'm going to start with this bigger area here, this jump down. Perfect. So from frame 59, I'm going to add a little jump upwards, and then our ball's going to land. I'm going to pull that ball up. Not as high as when he was jumping onto the box. Perfect. Awesome. I think that looks cool. And same idea, I'm going to exaggerate the timing of the ball staying in the air. And now in this case, I'm just going to even select the handle on this one side, and I can hit G, and I can pull that curve, that handle, pardon me, and I can shape the curve. And so it's sharper as it goes down. And then we go into our settle here at the end, and we can highlight, exaggerate that settle, make it even softer. Okay, overall, the curve is looking really good. Let's add a bit of the detail of the little secondary jumps. So here, landing on frame 45, maybe it's such a small recovery jump that it's either 4 or 6 frames. Okay, I just inserted a key. I can come in the middle and pull that ball up just a little bit. And now I'm going to work just on this portion here. I'm going to select this key that we land back into it. I'm going to hit V and vector and select that key, S, and just keep it up a bit longer as well. Doink, doink, continues rolling. I'm going to have an anticipation here of the squash. I know I'm going to layer that in. I'm not going to do that yet. The jump comes up again, land, and same idea. I'm going to have a small little recovery, secondary small bounce here. I to insert a key, and this jump I only made 4 frames. Very small. Same thing, I'm going to select these keys here that I want to work on. Period numpad, I can zoom in a little bit. Select this key and V, vector, same idea, just pull that out a little more so it's longer in the air. Okay, let's play what we have. And so as I'm looking at this, I like the last little jump. I don't think I need the middle jump here on the box, that smaller bounce. So I'm going to get rid of that. And then that's pretty much the detail. So I'm going to get rid of this. I don't think it's needed, but I do like that last little bounce here. Okay, let's play it one more time. Make sure I like it before we then add the roll on the ball. And actually what I'm going to do is now look at the timing of my anticipation with the settle and then the settle at the end. Right now it's ending too harshly. So before I move past this point, I'm going to make sure I get those two things correctly, and then I can add the roll. Okay, so let's go to the beginning, the anticipation here, and we're going to add our settle. So the ball is going to roll back, and then there's this hold here. So I'm going to create what's called a moving hold, where we're still respecting that portion of time that we're giving the audience just to see what's happening. But I don't want it just to be frozen. So it's called a moving hold. Here's how we do that. I'm in global, and I'm going to go to my location X here, Shift H in the graph editor so I can just see that curve. I'm going to select the keys down here, which really affects all the curves. And I'm going to go V, vector. And you can see it made it sharper here. And so what I like to do is go a frame or two from the end, and then I'm going to insert a key, I, and I inserted this one key there, and I'm going to come back to this original keyframe, and I'm going to grab it and go G. 1, 2, maybe 4 or 5 frames, somewhere in there, 6 frames. And here's that moving hold. Here's what just happened. I'm going to select this key, go V, and auto clamped, just so it's flat. And so now we've just created an ease into this pose. So when I scrub, the ball's still moving. And then yes, there's 2 frames of a true hold, and I don't mind that. But now we have more of a settle. So that's how we create a moving hold. Cool, so I like that. And then let's go to the very end and have our character settle a little nicer as well. Select all, period numpad, and let's zoom in to this area right here. Okay. And yes, I want that ball to move a bit longer and then to have a bit more of a settle. Insert a key, so I affected that. I'm going to select this curve here, that key, pardon me, hit V and vector. I'm going to have it come in sharp, and then I'm going to insert my own keyframe, and I'm going to craft my own settle. So in this case, before I went 2 frames from the end, here I'm going to go 4 frames, maybe 5 frames. So I'm going to give more distance, and that just adds more value, more travel distance, that I can pull that key and add a longer settle. If I only went 2 frames, it's going to be a lot sharper of a settle. So that's how I decide how long I want, or where to insert that key, I should say. So in this case, I'm going to go 6 frames. Insert a key, perfect. Grab this original key, that last one there, grab that one, and I'm going to pull it. You can pull it, I pulled it 6 frames here, I can pull it 8 frames. It all depends. V, auto clamped, perfect. Let's zoom into this, just so we can see even more clearly how sharp that settle is. And I can scrub, and I'm watching over here how that looks. I'm going to go even 2 more frames, G, perfect. I'm going to select that key, S, and it's really going to settle in there softer. Awesome. So let's play what we have. Cool. So there's our block and pass. We've gone in and identified the poses so we can describe the action we want to see. We added the anticipation at the beginning. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the move all control, the curve that moves the ball forward. We're going to copy that curve, and we're going to paste it to the rotation of the ball. After that, we'll do squash and stretch and really add more entertainment value to the shot. And that's pretty much going to be the tutorial. So if you followed along up to this point, really good job. So here's that curve that we're going to copy. A to select all, period numpad just to see it. We're happy. We've added the ease in and ease out where we think it's needed. I'm going to copy that curve, Control C, and we're going to come on over here to this rotation ball. Actually, what I like to do first to make sure I'm copying and pasting correctly, I'm going to come back to that move all control right here, and I like to go to frame 1, insert a key there. And the reason is when I paste, I know I can always go back to frame 1. Instead of remembering it was at frame 7. Okay, so I'm going to copy it again, select the curve, Control C, come on over here, and currently there's no keys on this control, and there needs to be to paste. So I'm just going to insert a key. I'm going to get my rotation GUI, and I can see that its local axis is X here. So I'm going to come on over here, select X rotation, Shift H, just so I can focus on that one curve. So I'm going to select the curve, select that key, Control V. A, select all, period numpad just to see it. So it's the exact same curve as before for the move all, translating forward, copied and now used for the rotation value. So let's just go ahead and see what we have. Cool, so that's feeling better. Typically, I find when you use this method of layering one control to another, one curve to another, sometimes the scale's not accurate. And so the curve itself is accurate, but all we're going to do is then scale in X and find the right speed for the rotation. Okay, so I like what I'm seeing. I'm going to select that curve. I'm going to hit S and Y and just scale it up. And already it's feeling much better. I think it can probably, no, I think it's actually pretty good. Yeah, okay, we'll keep it like that. Let's go ahead and start working on and we can always go back and add a little more if we feel like we need it. Let's go ahead and start adding our squash and stretch. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit of squash and stretch on the beginning, on that anticipation. So I know it's starting at frame 7. I'm going to hit I, insert a key, G, and my anticipation is going to have a little bit of a squash down, and then I'm going to come into this shape again. So squash and stretch, what it's about, it deals with volume. So the ball is a certain shape, and especially on when the bouncing ball in the previous exercise, when it's in the air and it's being pulled down by gravity to the ground, the frame just before the contact pose is the part of the ball that's going to be most stretched. And so when we stretch or squash, we maintain volume of the ball. And so if it's elongated in one direction, it gets skinnier in the other direction. And really what that's meant to do is mimic volume in real life. So the volume doesn't change, but the shape can change. So that's what we're doing here. And in this particular case, we can even use it a little bit to add personality. So as the ball begins to roll back, I'm going to squash it down and maybe even a bit forward. Insert a key. So now there's more determination to that anticipation back. He sees the ball, and if I really wanted to, what you could even do for yourself is not just the roll back and jump on the ball. You could even then pose some performance into this ball where the ball first sees the box, maybe looks up, has a little take, then the anticipation, and then the jump forward. And what that take would do at the beginning is just already tell us that's the objective. There's my anticipation. I'm building up that energy I need to go forward and jump the ball. So this squash and stretch can add personality, add intent to your actions. Cool. And then I'm going to start rolling forward. What I think I'm going to do is even maybe here, I might even have a little pre-jump. So we'll see. But might not need it. I might even just have a squash that goes up and then down and then back up. So let's do that first. The big one is I can identify where I'm about to jump, and I can already skip to that part, insert a key, and somewhere around here, insert a key, and I know I want to get into a squash pose and maybe even leaning forward. Okay. Squash, perfect. And I think I'm going to want that pose longer. I want the audience to register that idea longer. All I have to do is take that key, G, move it back 2 frames, 4 frames, whatever you feel. Perfect. The frame right after, I'm going to Alt G just resets your value, and now I'm going to pull the ball. Perfect. And what you can even do with this ball rig is if you want, you can Alt G back here, and then I can even come to this bottom squash control, and if I wanted it to come, to go the other way, to feel like I didn't cover as much distance within that one frame. So that's an option as well, and I might even explore it right now. Perfect. Insert a key, come back over here, Alt G, reset the value, insert a key. And it doesn't play as well. So I might even... Cool, well let's just leave it. Let's see how it plays. Alt G, reset the values, 3-4 frames later, so the ball comes back in that same volume. Perfect, and then the ball is going to land. And just before it lands here, I'm going to grab that top squash control, squash and stretch, a few frames before, insert a key, and all I'm doing is retaining that volume. The frame just before it lands, I'm going to stretch it as well. Insert a key, my contact pose, Alt G, reset the values, it lands on the box, it's going to squash, insert a key, perfect. And maybe, let's see, 40, maybe 3-4 frames later, Alt G, I'm even going to pull it up as it kind of overshoots that volume, and then it's going to settle, insert a key, and then maybe even 53, it's already getting ready to jump off the next side, insert a key. And you can see how quick I'm moving, because if I get it wrong, not a big deal. I didn't spend a long time, and I can always just redo the timing of this or the amount of the pose. So not a big deal. Alt G, perfect. And I want to stretch it. Somewhere over here, we're going to retain our volume. Perfect. And just before the contact pose again, I'm going to insert a key and elongate that shape. And just by doing that, we're adding more personality and also more entertainment value. Squash, not as much as before because the jump wasn't as big. And then here we do have that little jump. Control G, just a bit. Retain its volume. And then we have our contact pose. I'm going to have just a little bit of also squash. And then 3-4 frames later, it's just going to get back into that same shape. So let's play what we have. Cool. So it's working. I think that middle section on the box could use a little more love. It's just a little, it just rolls into the squash essentially. It blends a bit too, it blends over too many frames, I find, and I can be more intent with that. But overall, it's working. So I'm going to fix that little bit on the box, maybe exaggerate an area or two a little more, and then that's our action. Okay, so let's do that quickly. Yeah, it's that middle section where, so we come up, and then you can see from 48 to 53, and then I have a hold essentially, a moving hold of squash. So just too many frames in there that aren't helping us. So maybe what I'll do is Alt G, get back to that volume, that neutral state, Control C, and I can stay in that shape even longer. Control V, bang, and then it's intentful going down. I can delay that even more. So we see the natural state and then we go down. And then I think when we're jumping up, also I'm going to exaggerate just more stretch. Okay, do I want more? I think on the squash here I can go a little more. Awesome, let's play what we have. That's better, that's working better for me. And by delaying it and holding that shape while the ball's on the box, and then intentfully squashing, it feels like the ball's thinking about it, instead of muddling into the next shape. Alright, so that's it for this tutorial. If you followed along and managed to get your own bouncing ball action, really good job. We used 7 of the 12 principles in this animation today. We started off with our workflow principle, straight ahead, pose to pose, and layered. We used a bit of a hybrid in this tutorial. We also used squash and stretch just like we did in the last video, and you can see it adds that punch to your animation. We used our ease in and out principle to add a moving hold in our anticipation and to add a long settle at the end. We did our arcs once more, just like we did in the past tutorial, and all that is a pose, in that middle area, we pulled it up to define the jump, but then also to define the arc of the jump. We grabbed that top keyframe, scaled the handles, so we can then keep it in the air longer. That also defines the arc of the ball. We played around with timing as well, especially at the beginning, to make sure our blocking is working. We introduced 2 new principles of animation today, anticipation and posing. Anticipation really is that buildup of energy. Basically, any action you do, you're going to want to add an anticipation pose. And the bigger the action you're about to do, the bigger the anticipation pose should be as well. And then for posing is your storytelling ideas. For posing, you want to think about contrast. Like with most principles, you want to think about contrast, but posing and timing specifically. For posing, you want smaller poses and then larger poses, and then maybe a smaller one, a medium one, and then back to a large. You want to add contrast in your posing so that it creates interest when we're watching the animation. In the next tutorial, we're going to introduce 2 more principles of animation, exaggeration and secondary action. Exaggeration is pushing your idea, getting even more entertainment value. And secondary action, with this ball rig, we're going to activate our tail portion of the rig so then we can do overlapping actions. So we'll go over what that is in more detail in that video. All right, everyone, If you liked the video and got value from the tutorial, please like it, comment, so I know what's working and not. Okay, bye-bye.